I'm a YouTuber with 2 million subscribers. I've worked with the top creators on the platform generating billions of views, but if I had to start over from scratch, this is what I do. I'm gonna run through 4 of the biggest learnings I've used to build these channels that hopefully you can apply to your content by tomorrow. So number 1 is defining your target audience. Having a specific audience for all of your videos is very important, but I do see big creators mess this up all of the time. So what do I mean by that? How do you actually determine who is watching your videos and how to appeal to more of them? Now, if you've been making videos for a while, the easiest way to determine who is watching your videos is going into the Audience tab on YouTube Studio and checking 2 metrics, age demographics and gender. This should be the most important data point in determining what kind of videos you're making and how you're packaging them. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's use an example. On my personal channel, I was trying to make videos that would hit a target audience of 60% female, 40% male, usually aged like 12 to 18 years old. So all my concepts, including how I thought about how the packaging would play out and the video would play out, would be determined by that audience. And it's very important to think about potential interests and conflicts in those people's lives. So a big thing for me was I would make school-oriented videos because I knew that my audience would be interested in that. Because if you're a 14-year-old guy, you're probably in school and thinking about that a lot. So when coming up with your next video idea, think about what your audience is interested in and the problems they would come up with, and then figure out a good video idea surrounding that. But let's take this a step further. So let's say you have a split audience, let's say 50-50 male-female. And I would aim for this a lot on my channel. Great test you can run is you can put, let's say, the last 20 of your videos on a chart, make a y-axis of the age demographics you're hitting and an x-axis of the gender demographics you're hitting, and then mark all of your videos on where they'd fit on that graph based on audience data. And on that graph, find the correlation to most views. So for me, I knew I had a bunch of videos that had like super optimized titles and thumbnails within like certain lifestyle things that my audience were facing. And I found a correlation between gender, age, most views. So do that for your last videos. Look at Studio to find out what audience is watching what, and then target that audience super specifically in your next video based on outliers. Which brings me to my number 2 point, which is focus on packaging. So everyone knows packaging is important, but I want to break it down a step further. Obviously, every successful video has a good title, a good thumbnail, etc. But that also doesn't always mean super edited, strong thumbnails. And I've fallen into that trap as a creator a bunch. You don't necessarily need a bunch of keywords. All that it means is that it appeals to the target audience. But first, I want to run through some of the most important elements that actually lead to a good thumbnail. And you'll see those repeated in viral thumbnails across the platform. So 1, obviously ensuring they're popular with your target audience. And if you take one thing from this video, it's make sure your titles and thumbnails are actually appealing to your target audience and you know who the hell your target audience is. The second element is context. So if your video has too much context or not enough context at all, who's gonna click? No one, because they don't understand what's happening. Okay, a great test I have been running for years that helped me get millions and millions of views on my videos is I would show the thumbnail to people who have no clue what the concept is. So I would basically go to like a stranger on the street or like a family member who didn't know what the video is about, and I just show them the thumbnail. That's it, no title or anything. The closest they can guess to the title, the better. So if you show a thumbnail of you eating the world's largest burger and they guess, oh, the title is, I ate the world's largest burger, and that's the title or that's close to it, it means it's a good thumbnail because it has the right amount of context where an average person can view it. The last thing is the 3-element rule. So this is where the actual design of the thumbnail comes in. This basically means that each video's thumbnail should have 3 central focus points to it, no more, no less. So an example would be reaction style content. Stereotypically of a reaction video, you have a person on the outside, let's say it's me, and then imagine the title is reacting to the world's fastest cars. So I'm on the outside reacting to it. You see my face with an extreme reaction. So that's one element. The second element would be the actual car that's whizzing past, middle of the screen. That's what I'm reacting to. That's element 2. And then the third maybe is a caption that says something of some sort. So you have those 3 elements. What I like about it is it keeps it very simple, but it still provides enough context for you to understand. So it kind of goes back to point 1 and 2. A great example of a thumbnail that did really well for me was I lived with 10 sisters. That was the title. So, and this is another big thing too that I actually don't formally address this video, but is relationship building. So kind of making sure that you have consistent relationships on camera, especially if you're a personality-driven creator. And I work with a lot of people who are personality-driven or they're more format-driven. I think for me, I would always try to encourage you to think, okay, how can I include relationships in my videos so that they know? So for me, I did a lot with my sister. I did a video then titled, I lived with 10 sisters. And a big part of my core audience was interested, like, ooh, that's interesting. I know he has 1 sister. What would it be like for him to live with 10? Just a random example there, a little extra pro tip. But so for this thumbnail, you have me on the left, so that's one element. And included in that element is me holding a toothbrush, toothpaste, whatever, in blue. Another thing is color theory too, making sure your colors are contrasting but still are, popping. You see me, so that's the first element. The second element is all of the sisters in the background and they're wearing pink. Again, another pro pro tip in terms of thumbnails, think about what most viewers associate with the thing you're talking about. So for me, in this case, I knew sisters. People think of, girls, women, and the majority of people associate pink as that color, as that dominant color. So because of that, I was like, okay, if they're all wearing pink, people will just naturally see it and they'll understand the concept sooner. Thinking about it like that is super, super important. So the second element is all of the girls lined up in pink, and then they're each doing a different thing. So one of the girls is rolling her eyes, which brings out conflict. One of them has a face mask on, so it just makes it more interesting dynamic, et cetera, et cetera. So you can add multiple elements inside each of like the 3 core elements, but that would be core element number 2. And then number 3 would just be the setting. So you can kind of tell that we're in some sort of like bathroom, living room situation, which just works better for the concept. If the title's like living, a big thing is like, okay, how are you all living together? Are you all in the same like living room? Are you all watching TV? Whatever it is. So think about the scenario and the context that's within that thumbnail. So that's just a good example, and this can be traced across all the different videos in all of the different niches I work in. We can break down another one. So this is actually a concept I came up for my dad's channel. The title is I Survived the World's Strictest School, but you can kind of break down the variables that go into this based on what I was saying earlier. So if you think about the 3 elements, so the first one is the main character, Salish. She's on the left and she's blowing a bubble. So that kind of plays into the context of the situation. Oh, strictest school, she's blowing a bubble. Oh shoot, that's what kind of people immediately associate. And keep in mind, this video has 56 million views, so just proof that these teachings do legitimately work. One thing I did when I was thinking about this thumbnail is like, okay, what context can I provide? So if you're blowing a bubble gum, naturally that's gonna play into the vibe of the school. So that's first element, and she's wearing yellow in terms of the colors popping against the blue background. So the second element would be the lockers in the background, just providing context for the location, which would be the school. So that's pretty self-explanatory. People associate blue lockers immediately with school. And then the third one would be the actual teacher getting mad at her for chewing gum. Plays directly right into the concept, exactly as we would want. Those are the main 3 elements, but like I said earlier, there could be like smaller elements encapsulated in the bigger one. So, for the main character, Salish has the gum in her mouth, but to provide and like to add context to that, we then have, a bunch of other students in the background, and they're wearing different color shirts, so the main character can still pop and stand out more, but you can still have a lot of elements in the thumbnail, but just try to think about 3 main things. All right, before we get into the next step, I want to tell you about something very, very interesting. I just launched one-on-one coaching calls through my YouTube consulting company, Next Wave Media. So if you've been a creator for a while and your content or channel just feels stuck, you're not growing, and you're making the same videos over and over, it's a problem I see a lot, and I'm trying to deal with it now. So the truth is, you probably don't have the wrong content, you really just have the wrong strategy. So what I do is I apply the same strategy that I've used to grow my channel to 2 million subscribers, to grow countless other channels to billions and billions of views on the platform, and I apply that directly to your content. So if that sounds interesting, go to nextwavemedia.com/contact or use the link in the description, get in touch, we'll get on a call, see if it's a right fit. Now, on to step number 3. Number 3 is a big one, which is intros matter. So we've dealt with packaging, which is how to get the viewer to actually click on the video, but how do we get them to watch the entirety of the video without clicking off? That is mostly determined with the intro. There are 2 main aspects that make a really good intro that people want to watch. The first thing is immediately delivering on viewer expectations, or delivering on what the viewer is expecting to see within the content. So, and a great example would be Mr. Beast. Obviously, Jimmy, the way he does his intros is perfect. So let's say he has a video titled Last to Take Hand Off, Private Jet Keeps It. First line of his video is Last to Take Hand Off, Private Jet Keeps It. So that's one thing, is the actual like what he's saying on camera. But the second thing, if you take it a step further, is what that context surrounding him is looking like. And the number one takeaway from this video is context matters. But if that's the title, right, Last to Take Hand Off, Private Jet Keeps It, he's gonna start the video in front of a private jet. And I see a lot of creators get this wrong, where they will start a video and they have a good title, good thumbnail, they spend a lot of time on that, which is great, but then they start a video in a random location that has nothing to do with the promise you made in the title and thumbnail, right? Because essentially what you're doing in a title thumbnail is you're making a promise, and you have to deliver on that promise throughout the video, and you have to start your video in the exact location that viewers would expect in order to optimize for attention. So, but the way I think about it is the majority of creators lose about 40 to 50% minimum within the first 30 seconds of their video. So that means that after 30 seconds of watching, 40 to 50% of viewers click off on average. And this, I think, is such an undervalued metric in YouTube Studio that you genuinely need to focus on, because people talk about how important intros are, and it's true, but you really need to lock in on honing in for your audience what makes a good intro. And again, you don't always need to be in the exact situation, right? For Ryan Trahan, he has like an entirely different audience than Mr. Beast somewhat. Maybe they're older, right? Older viewers. So, if you watch his intros, if he has a title that says Staying in the World's Craziest Airbnbs, the intro, he might not be at the Airbnb location, right? He might be in his room talking to the camera, but his audience has expected that over time. So I think the more creators can focus on developing their audience in terms of what their expectations are for the title thumbnail, important. But the best way to do that overall is to start your intro in the exact scenario that you promised the viewer. So an example would be, let's say you make a video titled, "Is mac and cheese or mashed potatoes a better side?" This would probably be a better YouTube short than YouTube long form, but hypothetically. Then if you start the video not in your kitchen talking about it immediately, if you start it in your bedroom, people are gonna be like, what did I click on? So it seems small, but like legitimately, little pieces of context matters to providing value for the viewer. The second thing in intros that I wanna talk about is the payoff. So this is something I see creators get wrong all the time and has benefited me super significantly. And actually, I want to share something at the end of this that got me 10 million views multiple times on videos, and something that I haven't seen a lot of people do that I figured out a few years ago. So I'll share that in a second. But to add to that point, payoffs are arguably the most important thing you can do in the intro to increase viewer retention. So what do I mean by that? Let me use a real life example. So the YouTube channel Tasty, they used to do this series where they would make like the world's largest food. So they did like world's largest burger, biggest donut, whatever it is, right? Let's say in that video, he started the video and like, I'm gonna make the world's largest burger. I'm a big burger fan, whatever, that's fine. Then 30 seconds in, he said, at the end of this video, I'm gonna surprise this huge bodybuilder with this giant donut on his cheat day. Perfect, right? Now viewers are automatically waiting for that payoff to happen. And you can get super specific with this too. So I'll go to the example that I talked about earlier. I mentioned I make videos with my sister earlier. So what I did is I went around the world and I got my sister a gift in each country, 5 countries. And then at the end, she could only pick one of them to keep. That's the key point, right? I established that within the first 10 seconds of the video, is that at the end of this video, Salish can only pick one of these gifts to keep. And that was super relevant, and retention skyrocketed because all of these viewers who cared about me and Salish's relationship, and again, that's one of the benefits of building out that relationship, is people cared about seeing, oh, which gift is she gonna pick, right? And just as a spectacle, it worked really well. So then what I did is at the end of the video, and this goes, further beyond the payoff, but it still works, is at the end of the video, I stretched out the period of her deciding, okay, which gift should I pick, whatever, for like 5+ minutes. Over the course of those 5 minutes, we lost 0% retention. And then there was a spike at the end, which, you overall, and I'll make a different video breaking this down, but overall you want some kind of spikes. And I was like, oh, awesome, that worked really well. So there was 0% retention loss. That video ended up getting like 4 million views. So then on one of my clients' videos, he was making a similar video, and I was like, oh, hey, why don't you try doing what I did? These are the learnings I made. We lost 0% retention in these 5 minutes. She was like, cool. He stretched it out over like 8 to 10 minute period, 0% retention loss, or maybe it was like 1% retention loss. Huge. That video ended up now probably 30 or 40 million views. So this does work. Obviously, again, title, thumbnail, intro are gonna be the most important things, but in that intro, the payoff relating to the end of the video, and this person is gonna make a decision, and having that thing be an internal conflict, that will legitimately work, and I bet if you apply this, could double your views. And this brings me to my fourth and final point, viewer satisfaction. So this is something I hear very few people talk about online, but I have found to be the most beneficial thing when I have thought about growing my channel over the course of a long period of time. This is especially relevant if you've been making videos for years, but also if you're just starting out. Like, this really matters and was the difference between, for me, what videos would get 1 million views, 10 million views, and even on some that I've worked on 100 million views. Now, this seems like a very obvious goal, right? If you satisfy the viewer, they watch longer, YouTube shares it more. So yes, as a whole, that's what it means, right? Make good videos, satisfy the viewer. However, I want to take it a step further. If a viewer watches one of your videos and then they enjoy it, and then 2 weeks later you post, that viewer will get your video recommended to them in browse, right? On the homepage in YouTube. From there, if they enjoyed the last one, they're significantly more likely to click onto the next one. And you know what that does? It increases the returning viewers metric, which is huge for getting your video shared on YouTube. YouTube wants your videos to have more returning viewers because that just means you're satisfying them, keeping them on the platform longer. And the more you can do that, the better. So what I want to do is I want to go through 3 of the metrics that YouTube actually uses to determine how much your video is satisfying your viewers. Starting with number 1, which is new versus returning viewer. So again, that's what I had broken down before. If your video has an influx of returning viewers, and that is obviously going to be huge. And the second metric actually adds on to that, which is new viewers who returned. And again, this is a gem here, but this is my number 1 favorite metric in YouTube Studio, is new viewers who returned. So basically this is what this means. So if I click on a video, I watch it, I enjoy it. Then I see, a week later, that same channel upload. I see their next video. Maybe I don't even like the title thumbnail as much, but I'm like, wow, that last video was so freaking cool that I'm gonna watch the next one. This means they're a new viewer, we're a new viewer, per return. This is the #1 way that I have been able to determine satisfaction on individual videos. So if you have more of these, then it just means this video satisfied my audience more. If you have less of them, then it's like this video wasn't as good as that. And it also helps too from a title thumbnail perspective. It gives context to what types of titles and thumbnails my audience is clicking on. Because if a new viewer didn't return to watch one of your next videos, it's like, oh, okay, they're probably not interested in this kind of thing. It just goes a step deeper than just looking at like objective title thumbnail. It's like, oh, I can look at this exact metric and see how many of my new viewers who are now returning to watch the next video, are they liking these kind of titles and thumbnails? And also, to get your video individual views, like you don't necessarily need to appease this metric. I've had 1 out of 10s, 2 out of 10s, 3 out of 10s, where this was like moderate or low, as you can see on this graph. Sometimes that happens, but realistically on your videos, like you really, really, really want to satisfy them, and that is the best metric you can use to determine that, because naturally those videos will do best over time. The last metric is average views per viewer. So this is an advanced tab in YouTube Studio, and it basically tells you this is how many videos the average viewer watched over the course of X amount of time. So if you put in 28 days, your AVPV is 5. That means the average viewer watched 5 of your videos. That would be really good, by the way. For me, it was super, super important in determining obviously how well the satisfaction is. Again, it's a huge way in which YouTube determines whether to share your channel or not. Like if you're losing average views per viewer per month, so let's say over the course of 28 days, it's 5, and then over the course of the next 28 days, it's 3.5, they're not as likely to share your channel because viewers just aren't staying on your channel as long, or maybe on the platform as long, and they're losing ad dollars, right? That's just the way it works. So the best way I've seen to increase this metric is thinking about video formats. So think about Ryan Trahan's Penny series. In those 30 days that he was traveling across the country, think about what his AVPV was. The average viewer is watching so many of his videos. It's the same thing as if Mr. Beast has a video format that's like $1 versus $1 million, XYZ, right? He can fill anything in, and those videos are constantly recommending each other, and then the same viewers are watching each of those videos. The average views per viewer goes up, and your channel goes up in views. And you can also do that within the individual videos too, right? Like you can come up with video formats within a title thumbnail format. And I know that sounds complicated, but like here's what I mean. So I mentioned the example of the payoff, right? Stretching out that outro and having my sister pick one of the gifts to keep and stretching that period out, losing 0% retention. Having that, super, super valuable. Then I saw, okay, I can repeat this. So then viewers became accustomed to that, and it became a whole trend that not only did well on my channel, but also did well across YouTube, like the platform as a whole. Then you can like use that same format multiple times within your video, even if the titles and thumbnails aren't always like the same or similar. That's about it for this video. Welcome to this channel. I'm gonna break down weekly new YouTube things. Book a call if you're interested, and see you next time.